Hey guys, welcome to another Coturnix Corner Live. Tonight we are doing something a little bit different. We're going to be taking your questions in a segment that we're calling Ask the Breeders. Tonight with us is Allie from Maine's Confetti Quail Farm, Chris from the very popular Slightly Rednecked YouTube channel, and of course Zack from Myshire Farm. If you guys would, starting with Allie, would you go ahead and introduce yourself? Just give us a quick, brief rundown.
Sure. Hey guys, I'm Allie, and I am the owner of Maine's Confetti Quail Farm. So we moved to Maine from New Hampshire about 5 years ago, started our permaculture-inspired homestead, got chickens, planted an orchard, and just got quail last year, a little bit more than a year from now, and we have a little chick business. So we're small-scale, intense hobby.
Very good. Cool. Zack, go ahead, buddy.
I have a couple more quail probably. We've been in business for quite a while. I own Myshire Farm, and we've got all kinds of stuff going on here. But we ship about 500,000 eggs a year of all kinds of different Coturnix. We only specialize in Coturnix, and I've got about 6,500 right now.
Wow. Any website updates on availability?
Everything is actually available on the website right now. It's about 3 to 5 days shipping on anything that you order, so that's finally caught up. And we introduced a new color last week, and we're introducing another new color this coming up Sunday.
Perfect. I'll have to be over there to watch it. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, my name's Chris. I'm with, I run the Slightly Rednecked YouTube channel. And I live in southwest Missouri in town, and I raise meat rabbits, I raise quail, I do some gardening in my backyard. It's not really what I would call an urban homestead, but that's what a lot of people try to refer to it as. So I just share on my channel just kind of what's going on, and hopefully to help people out and give them an idea of how to, if they want to raise rabbits or grow a garden or raise some quail. Those are the things that I kind of primarily discuss on my channel.
Sure. Perfect. Good. Okay, guys, the show is going to run till 8 o'clock tonight, so let's get your questions in as soon as possible. And if you would, type the letter Q in front of your question. Just helps me distinguish the questions from the comments. I do not read every single comment on the show. We got a hard enough time getting through all the questions without having to read all the comments. And unlike Zack, I don't like going 2 hours. Let's see. Also, if you have a question for a specific guest, type their name after the letter Q, and that way we know who that question's for. Next week, I believe it's the 8th, we have Tamara Roselle's going to be joining us from Australia, and she's going to be talking about genetics. So if you are interested in genetics and what colors get what, don't miss that show, because Tamara is very knowledgeable when it comes to the genetics. Also, Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, over on the Coturnix Corner Facebook group page, is our Coturnix Quail 101, and that is hosted by Kristen Kugel and Nicole Winkles. It is a topic-based live stream that is geared towards the beginners basically that are new to the hobby. But they have a little topic talk, and then they take your questions, so check that out. Also, tonight we're going to be giving away a tumbler to the person who asked one of our guests the most interesting question, and we are also going to give away a 30 count of Jumbo Wild hatching eggs, which are coming from my stock. Yeah, 2 people are going to get a prize for the night. The winners will be selected during tonight's live stream, so make sure you stick around to see if your name's chosen. And as always, our moderator is Verna Young. She takes care of things over in the chat room. Verna, thank you very much for joining us again. I really appreciate it. I think that's about it. So let's go ahead and jump right into the questions and see if we can't confuse some of our guests. I know you'll confuse me. Okay. Ed Got Bait says, I put my eggs in lockdown on Sunday night When may I see chicks, and when should I just give up on them and put them in the trash? Anybody want to tackle that one?
I will.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Allie, you're first in line.
So they're in lockdown. They were in lockdown on Sunday.
Yeah, that's
If
what it
I
says.
remember correctly, I
Oh,
can't see
let
the
me
question
put
up
it on the screen.
anymore,
Can you
but-
read that?
Yes. Okay, on Sunday. So my it depends on the heat in your incubator. So if it runs high, if it runs low, that might adjust it a little bit. But typically, mine pip on day 16, hatch out on day 17. So I usually will turn my incubator off on day 19 unless I've got expensive shipped eggs. Then I might let it run to day 20, 21, 22. But typically day 19, everything should be out for me.
Okay.
So.
Okay, S. McGee says, I'm new to quail and they started laying 3 weeks ago, and about 60% of the time they lay double yolkers. Also, a lot of soft shells. Do I give calcium? Zach, you want to handle that one?
Yes, you need to increase the calcium for that shell problem. As far as the double yolkers, if they start laying double yolkers, 9 times out of 10 they'll always lay the same size egg. Usually.
Okay.
9 times out of 10.
All right, Skynet says, help. Some of my chicks have poopy feet. What do you suggest I do to remove it? Go ahead, Chris.
I guess that's my turn.
Yeah.
Well, I would say, I mean, if you're having a problem with it, then you probably need to worry about like cleaning up your environment a little bit. It depends on kind of what flooring you have as to what is going to cause that to clump up on there. If you just need to remove it from their feet, a little bit of a soak in Epsom salt water or something like that for a little while, and it should come right off. It should come off pretty easily. If it's a continuing issue, you might look at putting down a sandbox or something like that. I find that does a good job of my quail get in there and dust bath in there, and they keeps their feet pretty clean. I don't have any issues with it.
Okay. Okay, Michael says, power went out for 14 hours. Think my eggs need to be tossed, mostly quail and ringneck pheasants. Michael, I would not toss them eggs. I've actually lost power for 24 hours, actually closer to 28, and I still had like an 80% hatch rate. So there's on the YouTube channel here, there is a, what's the name of that video? It talks about temperature changes during incubation, and there's a sheet on there that was produced by Brinzia, which tells all the different zones and egg development or non-development during the certain zones. So, yeah, check that out. Ed Got Bait says, what part of Maine? I was born in Portland. That's got to be for you, Allie.
Right outside of Bangor.
Okay. Okay, this is a good one. Meow Vicious says, can we get links to the speakers' channels if they have them? Allie? Web link?
Channels. Well, to our YouTube channels, I'm under 100 subscribers right now, so I don't have a fancy URL yet. But if you go to my website, mainsconfettiquailfarm.com, you'll see all the links to my social media accounts from there under the navigation tab.
Good. Zach?
Oh, there's just so many.
Give them all to us.
Yeah, if you just Google Myshire Farm, I've got a bunch of them. There's the Facebook group Myshire Farm, and there's a couple Facebook groups that we control on there. And then we've obviously got the YouTube channel Myshire Farm, and there's Twitter and Instagram, and there's a lot. There's a lot. Whatever you wanted to look up, just type in Myshire, you'll find it.
Yeah, it'll come up. And Chris, what's your channel name?
Yeah, it's
Or
Slightly
address.
Rednecked. And you can find it on YouTube, Slightly Rednecked. I think I still, if you just Google how to build a wire rabbit cage, I think my video still comes up the first one in
Okay.
Google for that. But don't judge me based on that video. It was the very first YouTube video I ever did, and it's absolutely terrible. I mean, building the cage is great, but the video itself I didn't do very well with. But you can
I
find
think
me a
we
couple
all
of
can
different
look
ways.
back at our older videos and laugh.
Yeah, it's pretty rough, but
Yeah.
still gets a lot of views.
Yep. Okay, Carissa says, is it okay to add same age quail to a pen after it's established? I got 5 quail in 2 pens each, but just added 3 more because I found out I had 1 male by mistake. Zach, you're good at doubling up your quail. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, we do colonies here. So, you know, I've got a lot in each cage. Honestly, the best thing to do is just take them all out, kind of disorient them a little bit, put them all back in, and then no one's territorial. It starts all fresh, and they typically do just fine immediately. Like, there's hardly ever any issues. If you do throw them in there and they are younger or they've been in there for a while, they could be territorial, but that's why you should just take them out, put them all back in immediately.
Good. Okay, Becky says, for shipped eggs, does the location of the breeder have a large impact on the hatch rate? Should I select the breeder that is closest to my state? I'm going to give that one to you again, Zach, seeing as how you do most of the shipping.
No, I don't think so. I think Maine is just as good as Ohio to ship to California or anything like that. I think it depends on... A lot of people aren't going to like this answer, but shipping doesn't have a lot to do with hatch rate. Just normally does not. It has to do with when they were laid, when they were shipped, how they were packaged, how the incubator is. I mean, there's a lot of factors, but 8 times out of 10, it has nothing to do with shipping.
Right.
Not
Yeah,
that
and
the
I've
post
got
office can't
hatch
screw
rates,
up, though.
you know, I've got good hatch rates from the other side of the country as well as, you know, decent hatch rates right next to me. So, yeah, I agree 100% on that one.
My best hatch rates come from Myshire, actually,
Oh, do they?
and we're a ways. Yep.
Okay, Kirsten says, when selecting breeders, what traits do you look for when breeding to have a strong line for eggs and meat specifically? Go ahead, Allie, jump on that one.
Oh gosh. Oh, can you put that up again? There we go. When selecting breeders for traits, do you look for breeding to have strong... I'm sorry, my eyes are blind, Terry. You need to help me.
Yeah, when selecting breeders
to
for
have
traits,
strong-
do you look
Yep.
for when breeding to have strong line for eggs and meat?
What traits do I look for? Okay. I'm thinking, please stop me if I'm not answering what the question actually is. But the traits that I look for first, I don't breed specifically for the biggest meat size I can get. I'm really honing in on color genes that are newer in the country right now. So I'm looking at clean bloodlines. I'm looking at egg size because I don't want to hatch out tiny babies. So we're selecting for egg size between 12 and 14 grams. And that's been overall health has followed that selection so far for us, is the egg size selection. But that's really typically what we start with.
Okay. Chris, you want to add on that?
Yeah, well, I probably breed differently because I breed specifically for my own use, just for eggs, just for meat in my backyard. I'm not breeding to sell or any of those kinds of things. Honestly, I don't typically pay much attention to which birds. I do in a sense. The bigger birds I tend to keep around. If I'm going to call some birds out, it tends to be the smaller birds, just to try to keep the size as big as I can get it because I am breeding for meat. But other than that, I don't really, I'm not too picky about it. I figure they're all meat. I'm just going to hatch out everything I can. And when I do select breeders though, that I'm going to keep for breeders, I do tend to keep the biggest birds that I can get. And those are the ones that become my future breeders.
Okay. Zach, you want to give us your input on that?
No, I completely agree 100%. You know, it really depends on where you're at. You know, I mean, I'm shipping a lot of eggs, So I have to do things differently to keep the business running.
Right.
Whereas if I did just have some for myself, it's the biggest bird goes in. Biggest birds breed and then they hatch out, and that's my next, So there's a little bit more that we do here just because of the different aspects. But I don't think people need to overthink it. Put your biggest birds together and hatch them out and put them together. I mean, it really is that simple.
Yep. I started doing one new thing on my jumbo lines, and believe it or not, I have a micrometer, and I am miking out their legs, the thickness of their legs. I'm trying to get birds with beefier legs that can handle the extra weight. I don't know if it's going to work out or not, but I'm trying to get a little bit bigger line. I know, Zack, you were saying that you're not going to push them past 14, 15 ounces. I think you said, just due to health issues. It's kind of like a test project I'm doing, so.
Sure. And one thing we have done in the past while, everything we do takes forever. But the past year and a half, we actually are taking some out after we weigh each week. Usually I don't recommend you doing that because it's just awful. It's just an awful experience to weigh your birds every week. And I hate it. But for our breeding program, we're actually, if they're not keeping pace to what the standard is, we're not using them at all. Even if they hit, we've had some hit 14 and a half, 15 ounces, but they didn't do this. They were more like, straight up. And we want more of a consistent all the way through. But again, if you're just breeding for yourself, I really don't recommend you doing any of that.
Right. Yeah, you drive yourself nuts.
Yeah.
Okay, Paula says, thank you all for sharing your knowledge selflessly. Can you tell me about the colored gray? I have some that are Pharaoh pattern, but have beautiful gray feathers. You're into colors, Allie?
I'm assuming they have fat feet. Okay. If it's gray on Pharaoh, it could be silver Pharaoh also. So I guess it depends on what genetics line they got that from.
Right.
But, sorry, your question disappeared again on me, Terry. But tell you about them. Okay. Well, if you have fat feet, then you have the feed gene, and that's a really cool thing to have in your flock. So if you have Manchurian, Italian, you can pair them with that Fab V and get pretty pearls. If it is a silver, then you could potentially have those birds throw different silvers also, variety of different silvers.
Okay, great. Let's see. Becky says, I'm wanting to breed a variety of jumbos, large quail for meat in an aviary type setting. Genetically, do some quails breed better together than others? And should I stick with only one color? Chris, you kind of do the outside thing.
Well, from my point of view, I really like, if I'm just breeding for meat and eggs, which I do, I really like just the standard brown jumbo Pharaohs, either jumbo meat makers. I can't really tell the difference between a jumbo meat maker and a jumbo Pharaoh. They kind of look like the same to me. But I like them for multiple reasons. They're a nice big bird. They're a good egg layer. In my experience, I don't have as many problems with aggression with them as I've had with some of the other color patterns, and that just may be my luck. But the other thing I really like about them is that I can just look at them and tell that's a male, that's a female, and just easily pick them out. It's very, very simple to do. So that's why I always go with jumbo Pharaoh, jumbo meat maker. I have kept other colors in the past, and they're nice, they're pretty, but when it comes to just egg and meat production, I think it's hard to beat a jumbo Pharaoh.
Sure. You guys want to add anything to that, Allie or Zach?
No, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, J.L. Murphy says, I'm having to start over with quail. How do jumbo wilds or pharaohs do in 90-degree plus temperatures? I can tell you, I'm down in South Florida, and they do just fine. As long as you got a little bit of air movement around them, you're not going to have any issues. Chris, you get pretty warm out there in Missouri, don't you?
Yeah, we get
up
to 100 degrees plenty of times in the summertime. It's typically over 80 degrees, high humidity. So we don't have, you can't use evaporative coolers or any of those kinds of things. They do just fine. Keep them in some shade. And what I always try to tell people is make sure that they have shade other than just the roof of your hutch. You want to keep them, under a tree or something like that, so the hutch itself doesn't warm up that much, because they do tend to struggle a little more in the heat of summer than they do in the cold of winter. At least our cold. We got down to -15 this year, and they had no problems whatsoever. In the heat of summer, it is a little bit worse on them, but as long as you keep them in the shade, give them a little bit of a ventilation, then they tend to do just fine.
Okay. Good. Okay, we got one here for Zack, the La Rochelle farm, I think that's how you pronounce it. Zack, with Fab Fee in mind, to increase the size to jumbos, would you work with the males first, females first, or just cross the largest males and females?
With the Fab Fees, we just started crossing the largest to the largest. Is what we did with the Fab Fees. We didn't do anything with, let's work on the males first and this, which we do with some colors. When we're actually working with different colors, we'll do that. Mm-hmm. But with the Fab Fees, we were already pretty far ahead, so we were just, the biggest goes in.
Okay. Kirsten says, is there a jumbo line that lays blue eggs? If not, how would you go about starting one? That's a good one for you, Allie. You do celadons.
So I know that there's one being worked on. It's been being worked on for, I think, a couple of years now, but it's not in public circulation yet as far as you purchasing hatching eggs. I have a couple of lines here that are larger birds but still small eggs. So I guess it would depend on if you're wanting jumbo-sized eggs or jumbo-sized birds. I'm assuming you want jumbo-sized birds. Then again, go for the largest birds, largest hens, largest males, and do those together.
Okay. Witch Doctor says, I have a rooster we call Casanova. He will mate with anything. Is that normal? Yeah.
Yeah, it's normal.
Yep.
Okay. See, Meow Vicious says, what is the most unexpected thing you have learned raising quail? I'm going to let everybody take a shot at that. Allie, go ahead.
Oh gosh, start with me. I had the novel playing in my mind. Most unexpected thing was probably the mind block of the emotional detachment mind block was something that threw me in the beginning. I thought, it'll be fine, they're just protein, and then of course you fall in love with them, especially if you have colors that Zack gives. And it was a harder process to begin with. That was probably my biggest.
Okay, Zack?
How many mistakes one person can make in one journey? Like, it's insane. Like, you'll try. It's like, here's the thing. They hatch just to try to commit suicide. And your entire goal is just to keep them alive, to get a couple of eggs from them. And they are the most creative. Like, you'll turn around and be like, how did you hang yourself from a 12-foot ceiling? You can't, what happened? How did you get up there? And it's just, it still amazes me on sometimes where I'm like, you're that dumb to do that? Like, I don't want you in the breeding program anyway. Like, I don't.
Right.
All right. Peace. So yeah.
What about you, Chris?
How many ways they can die?
Right.
Yeah, I got to laugh at that because I've experienced that too. But I think probably the most unexpected thing, when I very first started out with quail, I had this idea that I was going to get these birds and they were going to lay all these eggs. I was going to have eggs and meat, and then I got more birds to put in there, and they started beating each other up and pecking their eyes out. I think that was probably the most unexpected thing, was how aggressive they can be. Especially, some birds seem to be way more aggressive than others. That was probably the most unexpected thing.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to say how addicting they are, because before I got into quail, I raised chickens, and I only had, 4 or 5 chickens out back. And then I thought, well, I'm going to get into quail. It's a little bit easier. And I didn't realize how fast I would go from 5 birds to 100 birds to 200 birds, and now up over 300 birds. So, yeah, very addicting. We just got a super chat from Carlos. Carlos, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I tried to scroll down to see if I could find your question if you had one, but I couldn't find it. Yeah, I'm just going to have to go back. Carlos, thank you very much for the super chat. It is much appreciated. I hate it when I leave my questions because I can never find where I left off at. Oh man, a bunch of good questions too. Oh man, guys, we got a half hour left and we got a lineup of questions. Where did they go? Okay, there we are. All right, Morris family says, are female quail in any pen scalp each other and murder males? Why and how do I solve this? I don't have that problem anymore, but Zach, I think you pretty much eliminated it too, didn't you?
Yeah, you pretty much, I mean, there's a chance that you can get an aggressive female, but 9 times out of 10, they're just territorial. So you take them out, you put them back in with everybody, and it usually solves itself.
Allie, do you have any issues with that? No? Chris?
I get aggressive hens, and in fact, a lot of the times whenever I have aggression problems, it tends to be the hens that are the aggressive ones. But like Zach said, it's usually a territorial thing, and they either work it out pretty quick, or you remove them around or something like that to disorient them a little bit, and it usually kind of solves the issue. I don't think I've ever had issues with them scalping other birds, though. What they usually do is go for their face and their eyes. Is where I usually notice the aggression, not scalping. Scalping sounds like a male overbreeding.
Yep. I found out one thing: you want to make sure that you never run out of food and water.
Well, that's true.
They're going to get.
They didn't say how much square footage they were in either, did they? Did they mention that?
No, they did not.
Yeah, it could be an overcrowding thing.
Yeah, or on the other end of it too. If they are in this big run area and they've got 7 birds, it could be the opposite effect.
Yeah.
Okay, Jason says, Zach, what are the top 5 selling Coturnix quail eggs?
Oh dear God, we've got a lot of questions. All right, so Jumbo Wilds, probably the SSCs, the Golds for sure. They're monstrous this year. The Sex Links, and probably the Jumbo Mix.
Okay.
All right.
Samantha says, why don't my colored birds like being with my white birds? That's a good one for you, Allie.
See, I don't have a problem with my white birds and my color mixes either. I've read that a lot of times in the quail groups that people mention that they have issues with their white birds, but I don't have that experience.
Okay. Do you have any issues with the white ones, Zach?
I don't, and I've seen a lot of people on Facebook saying that their whites are the most aggressive. I've not really ran into that at all before.
I haven't either.
I mean, I'll get the jerk male every once in a while, but like people are like, all my whites are really, and I'm like, I've never really seen that.
Mine were.
So yeah, were they?
But it's been years. It's been probably 4 or 5 years since I've had any. But yeah, the white birds I had, they were, I don't know if they were A&Ms or not. That's what they were called, but they were incredibly aggressive compared to the rest of the birds.
Okay.
But as far as other birds not wanting to be around them, I mean, other than the aggression factor, I didn't have any problems with that. We can speculate.
Herman says, can you breed? Oh,
Sure.
Did you have something you want to say, Ellen?
I was just going to say if there's some, if they have blue coat, that would help with the lighter color birds. If they're getting any kind of nicks or pecks, like any kind of blood spots, because it's easier to see that on the white birds. They may be more curious to peck something that's a little bit injured. So if you grab blue coat, maybe that will help.
Okay. All right, Herman says, can you breed a quail to get frizzy feathers like a chicken? Are you looking into any of that kind of stuff, Allie? I know you're interested in genetics.
Yep. There's the frizzle, and then there's the curly gene. I don't have either. They're not common.
Right.
They're out there, but
Do you ever run across any of that, Zach?
Yes.
Yeah?
Our MPIP guy, we actually keep just a few. They don't breed true at all. They're the worst. They're worse than celadons to me. But my MPIB guy loves them. I mean, just thinks they're the coolest thing in the world. So we keep just a separate little Winola Ranch cage to the side, and he always tests those every time he comes. He's like, "Oh my God, how many do you have now?" And we're like, "Still 3. We still have 3." He's like, "Why aren't you working on it?" And I was like, "It's literally just for you." I
Right.
just think it's funny. He's like, all right. So,
Cool. Witch Doctor says, question to anyone, can I order hatching eggs if our temps are over 100 degrees? Another good one for you, Zach.
yes, you can. It's really, I mean, yeah. Don't worry about the shipping or the temperature. If they're packaged correctly and they're fresh, and as long as they get there within a few days, they're being moved around a lot, they're fine.
Okay. Living a Rogue Life says, when switching males, can I just put the new male in the cage, or do I need to remove all the hens first to prevent fighting? Good one for you, Chris.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea to remove everybody, like Zach mentioned earlier. Take them all out, mix them up a little bit, put them back in.
Yep.
I wouldn't just throw a new rooster in with a whole bunch of existing hens. They're probably going to pick on him pretty good.
Right. Zach, how do you do that when you change out your roosters? Do you mix them up, or how do you change out your roosters?
Yeah, so we actually, we have a divider colony cage. So we've got so I go through and find the males. We'll take the males out, put all the hens on one side, put the males over, and then kind of move a little bit, throw some hens there, open it up, and then just kind of like make them jump a little bit, and they have no idea that they're new. Like everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I know you." It's like, okay.
Okay.
It's a lot faster than taking out all my quail.
Right. I don't take them out either. I just swap out the males, and I've never had an issue with it. Paula Downey says, I'm just getting to the point where I need to start culling some males. What is the best way? Thank you for all your help. Anybody want to jump on that one?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you're looking for advice on how to process them, or if you mean there's a better way to cull them. Cull doesn't always mean, process just means remove them. So if you're not looking to, process them for your freezer, then offer them up for sale on Craigslist or something like that. You can probably find somebody that will take them there. If you are looking for tips on how to actually process them for your freezer, they're pretty simple to do, really. Once you get past if you've never dispatched an animal in your hands, it's a little bit of it's a hurdle to get over the first time you do it. So once you get past that, what I do is I take a screwdriver, use it kind of like a club with the handle side out, knock them on the head to stun them, snip their head off with a pair of scissors, and then I usually just breast them out and then pop so I just peel the skin open on their breast, stick my thumb in their underneath the breastbone and my finger up by the neck, and just pop that out. Cut it off at the wings, skin the legs out, cut the legs off. That's about all the meat there is to them, is the breast and the legs. So I don't bother skinning the whole bird. I just breast them out, take the legs off, and that's how I do it. You can do one in a minute and a half, 2 minutes, something like that. It's pretty quick.
Allie, do you have any issues with culling birds?
Well, the emotional issue was the issue, but no, my husband's really good. He takes care of that part for me.
Good. Mary says, I recently hatched bob whites given to me. If I put them together with Coturnix in the same aviary, will there be any issues? Zach, I think you touched on that.
I've never experienced it. I know that some people do breed Coturnix and bob white together, so I'm assuming they can go together. We've never had anything in the building other than Coturnix. Everything else is separated. So I don't have that experience, but I do know some people do it.
Okay.
Breed them together.
Okay, this is a question for everybody. What do each of you do? This is from Tina Price. What do each of you do about mosquitoes? I have outside cages now. Starting to see a few in here in Missouri. Well, we're going to let Chris jump on that one.
Yeah, that's my neck of the woods, right? I don't do anything about mosquitoes. I just don't worry about them. We have plenty of them too, but I just don't worry about them. I keep my dog on heartworm medication all year long to keep him from getting heartworms, but I've never had problems with the rabbits, the quail, anything else. Getting any parasites from them, it's never been an issue, so I just don't worry about them. I do know that they make, there's a couple of different products that you can get. The hang up in trees and things like that are supposed to keep mosquito populations down if it's a big problem.
Like
I think that's probably a better. Well, no, these are like some kind of attractant that attracts the mosquitoes to them and then traps them in there or something like that. I can't remember the names. I wish I could. I think it's a better alternative than trying to spray pesticides everywhere and all that kind of stuff. But
sure.
I don't know. I can't remember the specific names of them. I just don't worry about it. I try to keep water. I don't let water gather in flower pots and all that kind of stuff. Just to not give them breeding grounds. And other than that, I don't worry about it.
Right. I don't either. And our state bird's the mosquito down here. So.
Right.
Okay, Herman.
Boxes this year. That helped.
What's that?
We hung up bat boxes this year, and that really helped.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
I don't have a bat box, but we do have a lot of bats around here.
You could build one, Terry.
I know I could, but I don't want to. I don't need no more bats. Okay, Herman says, what's the best steps to have a productive meat sale on quail? What do you recommend? A productive meat sale. I don't sell any meat, so anybody else want to jump on that?
Farmer's market I've seen. I don't personally do it, but if you've got inspected and you are following your state rules, farmer's market might be a good spot. I see all the coolers with the fresh meat out there all the time.
Sure.
It might be a good
I think the key, and I don't know all the rules, and I imagine it does vary by state, but I believe if you're going to sell meat for human consumption, you do have to be inspected, and you have to have facilities set up in a certain way. I don't think it's terribly difficult to do, but you need to look into that, because if you try selling meat for human consumption without it, you can face some pretty big fines.
Yeah. Didn't you look into that once, Zach, and found out that it wasn't worth the effort?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. We had to pay this guy. It was like $50 an hour for him to come out and watch us do it, so that he could sign off on it. And it was like, okay, forget it. And then we had to build, because that's when we were building this barn. And they're like, well, it can be attached to the barn, but it has to be a separate building, and it has to have a different ventilation system. And it's like, forget it.
Right.
I'll just sell them to falconers.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. Brenda says, do quails need a dust bath all the time or just every now and then? Mine get it every now and then. So, what about you guys?
I keep a
every now and
sandbox. Yeah, I have a sandbox in my hutches that they have access to all the time, but they don't necessarily need it all the time. I do that more for my convenience than theirs, because they tend to lay all their eggs in the sandbox, and they're super clean. You don't have any feces stuck to them or anything like that. It's just way easier to collect, and you get way cleaner eggs that way, and that's just the reason I do it.
Okay. What do you do, Allie?
I have sand as my substrate in all of my hutches during the spring and summer. And then I switch to a deep litter in the fall and winter time. I don't give sand in the winter time because it can freeze up a little bit in there.
All right.
If I do, it's in a smaller container that I just put in for a little bit and take out. But it's not like a free choice thing all the time during the winter time.
Gotcha. JC says, do you know if you're able to crossbreed coordinates with bobwhite? Oh, if you're able to crossbreed Coturnix with bobwhite quail at all?
Autocorrect.
Yeah. Well, it says coordinates, but yeah, I think you can, but you're not going to get anything. You can't breed them after that because they're
you get mules.
Yeah.
Okay, Rebecca says, what is your preferred way of introducing new birds to an existing covey? We already covered that, but mix them up.
I will say, what's worked really well for me, because I am a small backyard producer, I don't have tons of birds, is I know, like, for example, the birds that I'm in my incubator right now, some of those are going to be my future breeders. So what I typically do is I'll take them at about 3 weeks old before they reach sexual maturity and just add them to that hutch where my breeders are now. And I never have any problems with them. Never, no aggression, no fighting, nothing. They just grow up and become the next breeders, and then I call out what I don't want.
Yep. Okay. Jamie says, Zack, dry hatch versus adding water to increase humidity. What is best? Why? Does it increase or decrease the hatch rate?
I really think that it's a where you're located kind of thing, geographical issue. We have never dried hatch here, but if I remember correctly, Terry, that's all you do now, right?
That's all I do.
Do you dry hatch?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but I mean, he's super humid where he lives, where I'm not humid at all. So it really depends on your area. I was working with someone that bought a lot of eggs for me in Utah, and she kept having like a 55% hatch rate, and we could not figure it out. She talked to someone local, and they're like, well, why aren't you dry hatching? She switched over to dry hatch. Ever since then, she's gotten like 85-90% hatch rates. So it really depends on where you're at.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can kind of. I mean, because in Missouri we are super humid in the summertime, but in the wintertime we're very, very dry. Right. So in the summertime, we're 75% humidity, 80% humidity. I dry hatch in the summertime. In the wintertime, though, we're at 15-20% humidity. It's really dry. So then I have to add water to the incubator. And you're right. If I add too much water in the summertime, I get terrible hatch rates. If I try to dry hatch in the wintertime, I get terrible hatch rates.
Right. Sure. What about you, Allie?
Same.
Okay.
Especially when the wood stoves are going wintertime.
Oh,
yeah.
Needs to be added, yeah.
Yeah, I think the best thing is just monitor your humidity during the first 14 days. If it's low, bring it up into the zone that you want it in. On average, I probably incubate at 30 to 35% humidity during the first 14 days, and then I bump it up to about 65 at lockdown. Okay, Paula says, are there some colors that have low hatch rates because of genetics? Got any idea on that one, Ellie?
I'm going to say double silver off the bat, but Zack would know extensively based on all of the colors that you have, Zack.
No, not really. No, not really. I mean, I would say the lowest would probably be when we have to do silver to silver, which we only do like every 4th generation. We put them back together real quick. The snowies for the first probably 1.5 to 2 years was really rough. I mean, it was still a decent hatch, but it was nowhere near anything else that we had. That's been fixed, so that's fantastic, but that took a long time. Okay. Other than that, no, not really.
Albinos too? I don't think many people have those, but they're...
No,
I heard they're a little...
We've never tried to breed those.
Right. Tina says, what is your favorite way to cook quail? That's a good one for you, Chris.
Yeah, this gets asked every time I'm on here. One of my favorite ways is probably what I do is I take the breast meat, I cut it off the bone, so you end up with 2 halves of the breast meat, and then stuff it with something. One of my favorite ways is put some blue cheese down in there, wrap it up with some bacon, brush it with some buffalo sauce, Frank's Red Hot, and then grill it. That's really, really good. Or jalapenos. And wrap it, and cheese, cheddar cheese with some barbecue sauce wrapped in bacon. That's pretty good too. Those are probably 2 of my favorite ways to cook quail. But you can cook it a lot of the ways. You can cook chicken. Another thing, quesadillas are really good. Like you would do a chicken quesadilla, just substitute the quail for it. It's really good that way. There's a couple of them anyway.
All right. Okay. Herman says, what's the best way to package quail meat for the freezer without freezer burn or for sale? I don't know. I let my wife do that, so I don't know. Allie, what do you do?
We do freeze food saver bags.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what she does. Yeah, she puts them in the Ziploc baggies. So. Paula Downey says, what's the best incubator for quail and why? Anybody want to jump on that one?
Sperado!
Yeah,
Our home hatcher Sperado is my vote all the time.
I like mine. It works good.
The one you built?
One?
Yeah. I would have yours if I
that
was
thing
more
gets
independent.
90% hatch rates all the time.
I use a Little Giant, and it's a cheap styrofoam incubator, but I get 80-90% hatch rates out of it. One thing I will say about Little Giant, it's Miller Manufacturing is the company that makes that incubator, is I had a thermostat go out a couple of years ago and called the company and said, hey, my thermostat went out on my incubator. They asked me the model number, and that's it. They sent me a brand new thermostat. They didn't ask me when I bought it, if it was still in warranty, nothing. They just, I mean, it was like 2 days. I got it in the mail. So really good customer service.
Yep.
I do also hear really good things about Hovabators, but I haven't personally used one myself.
Yep. And I know, Zach, you use the homemade model too. Wait a minute.
Yeah,
Didn't
we
I
do.
see a video where you had a Sportsman?
We do have a GQF lockdown now.
Okay, cool.
Yep, we do have a GQF lockdown. I needed 2 separate lockdowns, and I did not want another big thing to plug into the wall. So I thought, well, why not? So it's worked out pretty good.
Okay, Curtis says, I have some 1-week-old Coturnix, and I noticed a couple are having problems with 1 foot not being spread out. They were late hatchers. Is there any fix to help or to prevent this from happening? Go ahead, Zach.
No, it's probably too late to try to fix it. Probably should call them. No one's going to like that answer. I'm very sorry, but
I agree.
they're not going to be productive for you. And if they do, they probably wouldn't make it. And if they do make it, they're not going to be productive for you. We just, we call them.
Yep. I would check your incubation temperatures. If you're getting late hatchers,
I
which
agree.
is the cause of that whole thing, it's probably a temperature issue.
Yeah.
Okay, Kirsten says, I live in a desert, think 20% humidity. Do you think I can do a dry hatch, or will I run into issues? I'm going to say you should probably do a wet hatch.
I agree.
Agree?
Yeah.
Okay, Letty Torres says, I'm looking for the best quail plucker. What do each one of you recommend? I just did a review on one. It was Hatching Times Quail plucker, and it worked really well. But to me, I prefer the little drill-mounted ones. I mean, they work really good, and it doesn't take so much time to set up and everything, or do it by hand. What do you guys use?
I use a Farmer Right Pro. I
Okay.
believe is what it's called. Stainless steel. It's off Amazon. I really like that.
We
It's
have the
drum.
same thing.
Yeah.
I've never plucked a
We have
quail.
the same thing.
I never
always
have
just
enough
skim
to
'em
do to make it worth my time setting up the big plucker, And most of the time I just spatchcock them. Is that what they call it? Spatchcock?
Yeah. Yeah, cut the backbone
Okay.
out.
Yeah. All right. Katrina says, question, part 1. Testing a hoverbaiter, control center temp set 100, reads 99.8. Additional digital thermometer that came with it reads 100.8. 4 additional digital thermometers read 100.2, 98.6, 99.5, and 99.1. Part 2. 3 meat thermometers calibrated with boiling water read 2 read 100, 1 reads 106. Obviously not working right. Should I trust the hoverbaiter readings and move forward?
Probably.
Go ahead, Chris. Yeah, you got
Probably. If you want good, accurate temperature, you probably need to get like a medical thermometer, mercury based. It's a little bit easier. Calibrating a meat thermometer, and good for you for doing multiple thermometers. I always tell people, if you're going to try to calibrate your incubator, do multiple thermometers, because if those are reading the same and your incubator is different, then you can trust the thermometers. But you've got readings all over the place. I would get rid of the digital thermometers. Digital thermometers to me are not that accurate. Just pick up a good medical thermometer, like the old kind you stick under your tongue, mercury thermometer, and you usually will get a much more accurate temperature reading out of that. Get a couple of them so you can verify it. But your incubator is probably reading temperature right. And if it's off by 0.2 degrees, that's not that much.
Not gonna fuck anything. Okay, Herman says, is too much room for quail good or bad? Zach?
I think too much room is a bad thing. I think too much room is just as bad as overcrowding. I think there's got to be a happy medium in between.
What are you doing, Allie, for a ratio or square
Yeah,
footage
I
ratio?
agree. I agree with what Zach says. I'm on the extreme end of things as far as lesser birds per square foot. So I push it and do one bird per square foot typically in my areas, but that's mostly for ease of staying on top of cleaning all the hutches outside because I don't have wire bottoms. So if I were to pack in a whole lot of birds, like 2, 3 per square foot, it would be really difficult for me to stay on top of. So I have success doing that for myself, managing it, and they seem to do fine. If I go less than that, that's when there's territorial problems.
Okay. The La Rochelle farm, I wish I knew how to pronounce that, says when crossing to make fab fee larger, what different colors should be used in the crosses? When crossing to make fab fee larger, what different colors should be used in the crosses? Zach?
Well, La Rochelle Farm, you've already got Fab Fee, so you really just need to be, I mean, I wouldn't be crossing it because then you're going to have to cross it back. I would literally just take your biggest Fab Fees, hatch those out, and do it again. I wouldn't, I think you're going to backtrack if you do it that way because I know that you already have plenty of Fab Fees to do that with.
Okay. Witch Doctor says, when we start culling for meat, how would I preserve the wings to sell to dog trainers? Does anyone have any experience in this field? I do sell to dog trainers. Not the wings. Yeah, I just give them the wings. I let them dry and I just give them to them. You do that too, don't you, Zach? Sell for dog trainers?
We do. Yeah.
But that's live birds, right?
We do live birds for dog trainers, and then we have a big corporate account for, I think he does everything. I think he does reptiles and falconers and bobcats and lions, tigers, and bears. I don't know.
Oh, my.
He's got a lot of stuff. So, yeah, he just takes everything we got, and we just call them and put them in a bag and call him. But as far as the dog trainers go, they're all live. Right. I don't think any dog trainers ask for frozen quail or dead quail.
Right. Yeah, I would think on the wings you could either freeze them or dry them, and they would work either way. Okay, Katrina says, wait a minute, we already read that. No, we didn't read this one. Testing the hoverbaiter, control center humidity reads 58. Additional digital thermometer that came with it reads 64. Wait a minute, didn't we just read this? Oh no, this is humidity.
That was similar.
This is, yeah.
4 additional digital thermometers, humidity reads 72, 70, 75, and 71. Which to trust?
You're in the safe zone. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's
You're
humidity.
good. Just keep it going. You're all right.
Yeah, humidity is not nearly as important as temperature.
All right. How do I
precision
select
with humidity, I should say.
Right. How do I select a good incubator? What should I look for? Allie, how did you decide to get that fancy incubator you got?
So I didn't start with it, and I was the thermometer here, with a notebook full of information that just made me crazy and cry. So after that experience, I wanted something that was pre-calibrated. I wanted something that was high quality. The Brado's Italian made. I wanted universal rails that fit a bunch of different eggs, which the Brado did. So I didn't have to buy additional quail rails. Easy cleaning. These were plastic, so they're super, super easy to hose out my sink. And the humidity is added from the exterior of the machine. So my first ones, I had to crack it open and, drop what I could in there. And I was really doing it blindly. So I didn't know if it was the correct amount or not, but this one was a no-brainer.
Okay. See, Pax says, have all the color/pattern genes of Coturnix been explored already, or can surprises pop up? Is there a way to introduce more? Pax, you need to be here next week. That's a perfect question for tomorrow. But Allie, you study genetics. What's your take on that one?
There's a whole lot that we don't know yet, and fun things are popping up all the time.
Right.
So just this year, I think we've got cinnamon in the States, sandy in the States. There's black lines that are being worked on. There's calico that's being brought to the United States. It's in there. It's in the U.S., but not super accessible. Zach, do you have calico?
We don't offer it. We don't sell
but
it.
you have it. Yep. So there's one. And then I believe a lot of the Australian genes that we haven't had access to is starting to trickle in. So OZ, dilute, sandy. So those will be played with, and I don't think a lot of work has been done crossing them with roux or fee. So that should be interesting.
Yep.
And
Yeah, because they don't have the roux over there, do they, or the fee?
Nope.
Right. Okay, Herman says, what would you recommend if an incubator goes bad in the middle of incubation? What steps should I take? Anybody? Throw the incubator away.
Yeah.
Start over again.
Yeah. Call the company,
Yeah.
see if they'll replace it.
Right.
I'm not sure there's anything else you can do. You know, when I was a kid, we did,
Yeah.
I mean, you can get a maybe an incandescent light bulb on a dimmer switch, so you can, try to control the temperature, but that's going to be tricky at that point.
It is. Okay, we are 2 minutes to 8, so we're about halfway through. I knew this was going to happen. Okay, we'll go for a little while, and then we'll pull the plug on it. Lindsay says, I hatched an English white hen from a cage of wild Italian Manchurians. What color roux from the colors above should I breed her to if I want a higher chance to get the white recessive gene? Zack?
I went somewhere else for a minute. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Lindsay hatched a white bird out of wild/Italian/Manchurians.
I'd
What
put it with
color
wild.
roux from those colors should she breed to her if she wants a higher chance to get the white recessive gene?
Oh. Ooh.
I would just
I never
order
had to
eggs.
do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Do that. I mean, we ordered white, ate with white, you ate a white.
Right.
I
I would assume wild. Allie?
So you can do any of them. It's not recessive. I believe it's autosomal incomplete dominant. So what you need is a copy from each parent. So right now you have a double copy carrier in your white that you have. You want to breed it with something else, and that's going to give you tuxedos or patchy birds with white feathers. If you see another bird with a white feather even, you know that bird is carrying also one copy of white. So you can cross that back to that white bird, and hopefully you'll get 50% of that offspring fully white, and you can continue selectively breeding that way.
Good. Let's see. Rebecca says, how long are quail eggs fertilized after being with a rooster? Anybody?
It was about 10
I believe
days.
it's 4 weeks. Oh, is it only
I
10
don't know.
days?
It may be no, wait. 2 weeks, I think, is the right. 10 days is how long I store them before incubating. 2 weeks is fertility. Something like 13, 14 days, I think. I haven't really tested that fully, so I may be completely off.
Yeah, I know some people that I've talked to will, if they're replacing a rooster in a cage full of hens, they will wait 14 days before they'll start collecting after that new rooster's been in there, before they'll sell the eggs as whatever they're saying they are.
I wait 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. 4 weeks? Well, that's
Yeah, I
you're definitely
believe
sure then.
Tamara Tamara or
Yep.
Tamara. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, Tamara. But she does a month. She waits a month if she's doing color breeding projects, just to
Okay.
be on the safe.
Okay, Letty Torres says, I just learned that you can cross pheasant with chickens. Can you cross quail with anything else?
That is a
Anybody
very
wanna jump on
popular
it?
question tonight.
It
Yeah.
is. I don't
don't
cross my
recommend it.
quail with anything.
Yeah. I just learned you can cross pheasants and chickens too. I didn't know that.
Okay, Todd says, my quail just turned 6 weeks old today. When is it safe to start with layer feed? And when giving oyster shells, how is the best way to feed it? Zack, how do you give thousands of your birds sand? You can have the whole question,
I
Zack.
have, yeah, okay. I have an employee, so we take turns. We've got two sides of the barn, so pretty much it stays in there for a week. We take it out, we clean it out because they make a mess, and then it goes on the other side. And then next week he does it, and then next week I do it. So that's pretty much how that works. As far as the rest of the question, I don't remember what it was. So.
When can you give 'em
when
layer
is it safe
feed?
to start with layer feed?
For non-jumbos, we start giving them layer feed at 8 weeks. For jumbos, we give them layer feed starting at 10 weeks. And the week prior, we kind of mix together. So we feed twice a day. So, the starter grower will go in the morning, the layer feed will go in at night, and then at the end of the week, it's just completely layered,
Yep.
is what we do.
He
But
also
I
wants to
don't know if
know
it really
best way to
matters.
feed oyster shell.
I haven't fed oyster shells in probably 4 years, but we always mixed it with the feed. We always put it in the feed, and then put a thing of feed in, put the oyster shells in, put a feed in, and then push it in.
Yep. I just did a video on that, so you can check out Coturnix Corner and watch that. Okay, the Educated, that's a nice name, says, if my hatch rate wasn't that good, can I expect the same mortality if I breed from this single stock? You really need to determine why your hatch rate wasn't good. I mean, the stock could be fine if if you had an issue with humidity or temperature, anything could have ruined your hatch rate. What do you guys think?
I agree.
Yeah, I
me
agree
too.
100%.
Okay, Linda says, would quail stop laying if they are too hot? I live in Southern California. They are in a ground run, but are shaded.
I've never had a problem with them stop laying from being too hot. Now, what I do
yeah.
have problems is if mine are all kept in outside hutches, and sometimes if we get an extreme weather change, like a big cold front that comes through and drops the temperature 30 degrees in a day, or vice versa, I'll get a slowdown in egg production for a couple of days, and then they'll pick right back up. But that's more of a stress factor on them. It's not just because it's too hot. If it's just steady heat, I've never had a problem with it.
Okay, Skynet says, is it possible to breed birds for good temperament? Allie, don't you do
I
that?
think so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can. Don't select your jerks. The ones that come to you for treats and things like that, they come up to you. Those are the ones that I tend to keep around for breeding. The ones that run away and are really flighty and spaz, I don't typically keep them.
Dinner time. Okay. Here's another one for you, Allie. It says, Linda says, with celadons, do you incubate only the solid blue eggs, or do you include any that are blue-shelled but speckled like regular quail? Why or why not?
So it depends on where you're at in your breeding project. So if you're starting off with a line that is scattered with non-carriers, carriers, and true blue, I'd personally take all of them, make sure that they're with a vetted male to make your time easier, vetted male, and then take those eggs, put them all in the incubator, hatch out another generation, then see what that other generation is laying. Hopefully you'll have more than just a few solid blues, and then you can take those. If you really don't have a lot to work with, then you can select all the ones that are speckled that are only single copy carriers, but you're gonna have to do additional crosses to make those double carriers in all your hens and all your roosters. So it's just gonna make your process longer if you use those.
Okay, here's a good one for you, Zach. James says, what weight qualifies the quail as jumbos?
10 ounces or above at 10 weeks old.
Did I hear you say in one of your live streams that you were going to bump that number up a little bit?
I didn't say we were going to bump, well, we are going to change how we do it here. I think it's a little outdated.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to change our standard here.
Right.
So I'll be introducing that in a couple weeks. But
Okay, cool.
10 weeks at 10 weeks old is technically the standard. I think it needs to be updated a little bit.
Okay. Tina says, does anyone do anything special with their droppings? Good one for you, Chris.
Yeah, I just throw them in the compost pile, compost them down, and they get used with my regular compost. They're a lot like any kind of bird dropping, chicken droppings. They're a little bit high in nitrogen. You don't want to use them fresh on your plants. If you mix it in with a little bit of potting soil or a little bit of droppings to a lot of potting soil, it's not going to be that big a deal. But other than that, it's best to compost them down for 6 months or so, depending on how fast you compost. If you just let it set for a year. If you're turning it fairly regularly, then you can get away with a couple of months, and then it'll be compost. You can use it potted plants, garden, wherever you want.
Okay, yeah, and that's what I do too. Mary says, is it advisable to feed meat bird feed to add weight before processing? I don't. Anybody else?
I don't.
I feed my birds game bird starter. That's what I feed their entire life. That's what they get all the time.
Yep. Herman says, can you make a breed have all colors in one bloodline? I don't think so, but Allie, you want to touch on that one?
No. There's thousands of different combinations you can get. I don't think you could have a flock that big.
Right. Okay, Mark says, I have my quail cage under a tarp. Will that affect their hatching? That's a good one for you, Chris.
The quail cage is under a tarp, and will that affect their egg hatching? I'm not sure what's being asked there. If you're saying, will the birds hatch their own eggs? It's unlikely that they will. It does happen. People get, hens that go broody. It seems to be more in big aviary type settings than in small cage areas. But even when they do go broody, they don't tend to do a real good job of hatching their eggs out. From everything that's been told to me anyway. If you're asking about whether it's going to affect the fertility of the eggs, there's no reason it should affect the fertility of the eggs. I can't think of any.
Okay. Here's one for Allie. It says, Allie, this is from Jessica. Allie, what has been the most challenging aspect of starting a business with quail?
Ooh, not keeping too many birds. Because you're going to want more cages and more space, and then you're going to you're going to start running into, if you're like me, you have the quantity, but then you start to lose track of your really precise goals that you have for what you have. So I think starting smaller, getting your goals set, and then working on that the first year is enough, and then you can always add on to that. So, yeah, I would say don't get over your head too quickly with too many birds.
I love the face that Zack made when that question was read. Okay, Danielle says, I have some jumbo browns with white wings. Are they rare? I've never seen them like this before. Zack, I know you just introduced some of those.
I wouldn't say they're rare. No, I mean, they've been around for quite some time. I think we introduced them to us last year, or maybe the beginning of it. No, I think it was last. I don't remember. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I wouldn't say they're rare. They're uncommon, but not rare, I would say.
Okay, we'll go about another 5 minutes and then we'll call it good. Curtis says, I have seen several charts showing brooder temperatures in reference to age in weeks of Coturnix. Do you all follow these guidelines or watch the quail and adjust accordingly? I do the latter.
Me too.
I as well.
Allie? Everybody
Me too.
else? Okay. Yeah, because people think I'm nuts. My birds are off heat at 3 days old, believe it or not.
Well, you're in Florida, though.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's 95 degrees out in my shop most of the
Right.
time. So. Okay, Todd says, if I choose to keep my quail on starter feed, is it okay? And is it safe to put ice in the water in the summer? You can take that one, Chris.
My birds get starter feed. I mean, that's all I feed is starter feed. It's a 30% protein, 2% calcium game bird starter, and they do just fine on it. I don't have any problems with it. As far as ice in the water, I mean, I don't see why it would be unsafe. I just don't know that it's really necessary or that it does anything for them. So if you want to do it, go ahead and do it. I don't see any issues with that. But it's just probably not. It's probably extra work that you don't need to do.
Give them a brain freeze.
Yeah.
All right. Living with Farm Pride says, for Coturnix Corner, please address feeding soaked and/or fermented feed to newborns. I saw your show about it with adults. Any tips or warnings? Thanks. I don't actually start my newborns with fermented feed. It's usually once they're fully feathered out and they can reach in. I use the shoebox style feeder when I'm feeding the fermented feed, and once they're big enough to reach their head in there and get down to the fermented food, which is I think about 4 or 5 weeks, that's when they start getting it. I've actually cut back a lot on it recently just because I don't have the time right now. I got so many projects going on, I don't have the time to ferment the feed and everything. So blah blah blah. Okay, JL Murphy says, Terry, what is the number of birds you can house in the house? Terry, what is the number of birds you can cage in the video? Okay, I'm kind of lost on that one. Birds can you cage in the video build house again? Okay, well that cage is 2x3, so 6 square feet. 18. I think I keep 15 birds in each one of those units. Okay, Katrina says, had a quail die, likely heart, evidence, cat try. I don't understand where these sentences are coming from. I can't even read them. Had a quail die, likely heart. Evidence, cat trying to get in, not many eggs since. Put shade cloth around the bottom of the aviary to prevent seeing out. Are disturbances mostly visual and or sound? Okay, I think I know where she's going with that one. Your birds are outside, Chris. What would you say to that?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a situation I had where I had a fox that was coming up to the hutches, and I do have wire bottom hutches, and was grabbing the feet of the quail and pulling them through the bottom of the cage, and I lost several birds that way. And they did stop laying for a little while. I mean, that's a huge stress factor for them. You know, a predator coming and disturbing them every night. I ended up stringing a string of electric wire around the bottom, and he left them alone. He hasn't been back since. But yeah, I've never noticed sound too much or even visual. I mean, we get a hawk that flies around all the time, and that quail are a #1 food source for hawks. That doesn't seem to bother them too much. But if they're actually getting up to the cage, that does seem to, if they're getting up to the cage, making the birds jump and flush and those kinds of things, and those are stress factors that, I can get them to stop laying for a little while.
Okay. All right, this one's for Zack. It says, my wild type jumbos, 400 grams, but 470 grams plus, too heavy for skeletal muscles structure to support the weight. What is your opinion on maximum weight? Brisbane Quail, Australia.
It's a personal preference to everybody. I wouldn't want to say that those are too big or too small. It's just I like mine at a certain. I like consistency at a certain level for me. So that's what I'll say about that.
Okay, we're at quarter after, so I'm going to take 2 more questions, and then we are going to call it a night. Paula Downey says, my jumbo browns hatch 1 to 2 days later, and the hatch rate is a lot lower. Any idea why? Allie, you want to take that one?
Jumbos can take a little bit longer than standards just to grow fully within that shell before they hatch out. So that could be it if you're hatching with standards.
Okay. Let's see. Here, this is going to be the last question. If I can find one that's... Ken says, how long do you use a male for breeding before switching them for new genetics? We'll get everybody's opinion on this one. Go ahead, Allie.
So I don't predominantly have my birds for hatching egg sales. So I don't mind if my fertility rate starts to go down a little bit after that 10-month mark. I would prefer to keep my rooster with my hen throughout the duration of time that I have my hens. So I don't swap out new roos for old roos. I instead just keep that covey for the year, then retire the covey and replace them with the new generation. So that's what I do. But I don't need all the fertility that hatching egg suppliers do.
Right. Zach, you?
We switch our males out twice a year, and we switch our hens out once a year.
Okay.
So every 6 months, we replace the males.
Okay. What about you, Chris?
I go. I don't keep real close track of it. It's not like on a schedule, but usually year and a half, 2 years before I switch them all out. And I do the same thing. I don't switch definitely roosters out. I just bring new birds in and get rid of the old birds. And
Gotcha. Right.
that's
Yeah,
it.
I basically do the same as Zach. Twice a year on the males and once a year on the hens. So, all right, guys, we are at almost 20 after, so we're going to go ahead and pull the plug on this one. I want to thank everybody for all the great questions. I do have the winners selected. The winner of the hatching eggs is going to be Kirsten Ann Ashdown. Kirsten, if you can email me your shipping information, I will get them out to you this week sometime. I'll try. And Meow Vicious, you are going to get the Coturnix tumbler, Coturnix Corner tumbler. So you do the same thing, send me your shipping info, and I will get that out to you. So everyone, thank you very much for the questions. You guys, thank you very much for taking the time to come here and answer the questions. Really appreciate it. And I don't know if I wanted to get your input on that. You know, you guys think maybe we could do something like this, you know, every other month or something, you know, get some people in and
Are you
it's
asking
kind of
us?
neat to get it. It's nice, kind of neat to get different opinions.
You said some people. I mean, you want us to come back and do this?
Well, I mean,
I'm good with that.
next time it might be you and 2 other people, or Allie and 2 other people, or Zach and 2 other people. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing the idea out there, see what you
I'm
thought
always
about
open as long as I can work it out with my schedule. I'm always open.
it. Sounds good. All right.
I thought it was
Verna,
great.
yeah, Verna, thank you very much for keeping the chat room in line tonight. I do appreciate it. And Zach, you want to give us your announcement for your next week live stream?
Yeah, this next live stream, we do it every Sunday at 7 p.m. and we're going to be doing the 18 and under contest. So that's going to be really exciting. Terry said that he's going to give one of the cups away, the tumblers, and then Winola Ranch gives a free cage, free shipping and everything to the winner. And then we supply 60 free eggs to get someone under the age of 18 started and going, and entrepreneur skills and, you know, self-sufficiency and responsibility. So I really like that contest. So we'll be announcing that. We'll be announcing a new color we're putting on the website. And I think there was something else, but that's why I keep notes, because I can't remember anything. I think there's another thing, but you'll have to tune in and check it out.
Allie, what about you? You want to plug your quail farm?
Oh gosh, I think I don't need any plugs right now. But yeah, we'll be hopefully doing hatching eggs, maybe starting small scale next month. We're getting our testing done next week, so we'll see. Very small scale, like 30 count boxes here and there.
Cool. Chris, you got anything you want to say to end this thing?
I knew you were going to ask me that. No, I don't have anything really planned out to say. I don't really sell eggs or quail or
Right.
rabbits or anything like that. I get those questions all the time. I just breed for myself and try to share knowledge with those that are starting out. So if you need some advice, I always recommend.
What about your live stream? What about your upcoming
Well,
live
yeah, I
stream?
do live streams most of the time on Thursday nights. I work a full-time job, so there are times where I can't make it. But most of the time, Thursday night, 7 o'clock Central, I do a live stream, and it is just a question-answer live stream. So, if you want to join and ask questions, I do my best to respond to them all and answer them all,
Perfect.
and try to do it as best I can.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it, for everybody coming in here tonight. You guys, thanks for your questions. I appreciate it. And we'll see you Sunday. We'll see you Thursday. And we'll see you Saturday over on Coturnix Corners 101. Have a good night, everybody.
See you. Thanks.
Take care.
All right, guys. We're dead. Have a good night, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Terry.
Hey, thank you.
All right. Thanks.
It was great.
Bye.
Take care.